Imagine standing on a cold, desolate coastline, looking out at the horizon, and watching thousands of enemy warships slowly appear out of the dark ocean mist. In the late 13th century, the unstoppable Mongol Empire, a ruthless war machine that had already slaughtered millions and conquered the entire continent of Asia, arrived at the gates of Japan. The message they sent was brutal and simple: bury your pride, bow down, or be completely erased from human history. The defenders were vastly outnumbered, outgunned, and cornered on their own volcanic shores. No one was coming to save them. The empires of the West had already fallen. In that terrifying moment of absolute despair, as the soldiers drew their swords with trembling hands, they didn't look for an escape. Instead, they closed their eyes, embraced a silent, terrifying code of absolute honor, and prepared to die together as one collective soul. And then, just as the first Mongol arrow was about to fly, the sky turned pitch black. Nature itself seemed to scream. A monstrous apocalyptic typhoon slammed into the ocean, tearing the world's largest invasion fleet to absolute pieces in a matter of hours. The shattered remnants of the empire washed up on the sand, leaving the defenders weeping in the rain. They called it the Kamikaze, the divine wind. It wasn't just a lucky storm. It was the exact moment a nation realized that their spirit was guarded by something an empire's iron could never touch. Fast forward to today. Under the blinding floodlights of the 2026 World Cup, the blue of Japan lines up against the yellow and blue of Sweden. To the casual viewer, it's just a standard 90-minute tactical football match. But for those who know the heavy scars of the past, this pitch is a sacred portal. It is a modern arena where the heirs of that silent, unyielding samurai code meet the descendants of the legendary Viking shield wall, two civilizations born from the absolute edges of survival, stepping onto the grass to prove whose soul is truly unbreakable. To understand the intense, unspoken emotion behind this matchup, we have to look at the brutal challenges both societies had to overcome to forge their national identities. Let's look at Sweden first. Long before they built a peaceful, modern society, their ancestors survived the unforgiving Scandinavian winter. It was a landscape of biting ice, dark pine forests, and scarce resources. To live, you couldn't be weak and you couldn't survive alone. The Northmen had to build an unbreakable bond of brotherhood, the legendary shield wall. In a Viking shield wall, your life literally depended on the man standing next to you. They built wooden longships, sailed into treacherous, freezing waters, and fought with an aggressive, roaring bravery that left the rest of Europe trembling. For Sweden, power was physical, collective, and built on trusting your brother in the dead of winter. But across the globe, Japan was fighting a quiet, intense war against a different enemy: isolation and a volatile Earth. Living on a volcanic island chain constantly threatened by earthquakes, tsunamis, and brutal civil conflicts, the Japanese realized early on that chaos could strike at any moment. To maintain order, they developed a hyper-focused sociology built on Bushido, the way of the warrior. It wasn't just about fighting, it was about absolute self-discipline, unspoken loyalty, and suppressing individual desire for the survival of the collective group. When Western empires later tried to force Japan to open its borders with warships and treaties, expecting an island society they could easily dominate, they ran into a brick wall of cultural resistance. Japan chose to lock its gates to the outside world for over 2 centuries, creating a shadow empire that perfected its own art, architecture, and military systems in total isolation. But this intense isolation created a massive internal pressure cooker. When the gates were finally forced open, Japan faced a terrifying reality: adapt in a matter of decades or be completely colonized and erased by Western empires. They were completely surrounded, outpaced in technology, and cornered by a rapidly changing world. The Western powers believed Japan would easily crumble under modern industrial pressure. They brought steamships and advanced firearms, expecting the old samurai world to fade away. But deep inside the hearts of the Japanese people, a silent psychological weapon was being forged, leaving a historical twist that left Western empires completely outsmarted. Most nations conquered by the West, either fought a losing physical war or surrendered their culture completely. But Japan pulled off a brilliant, emotional revolution. Instead of fighting the industrial world head-on, they used their ancient Bushido discipline to master the technology of their rivals. In less than half a century, they transformed from a medieval samurai society into a dominant global industrial powerhouse without losing a single ounce of their ancient cultural identity. They took Western technology, perfected it, and built a society where advanced robotics live in perfect harmony with ancient wooden shrines. They resolved their crisis not by building stone walls, but by turning their collective discipline into an invisible, unbreakable shield. And here is the mind-blowing twist that separates these two nations. Both Sweden and Japan became the most peaceful, advanced nations on Earth, but they did it by transforming their terrifying warrior pasts into collective social superpowers. Sweden took the intense brotherhood of the Viking shield wall and evolved it into one of the most supportive, egalitarian social systems in the world. They turned the pack mentality of the longship into a society that leaves no citizen behind. And Japan? Japan took the absolute, silent discipline of the samurai and turned it into a modern culture of perfectionism, craftsmanship, and community respect. When Japan's fans clean up stadiums after a match, or when their players leave a spotless locker room with handmade origami cranes, that isn't just politeness. That is Bushido. That is the ancient, quiet discipline of the warrior, adapted to heal the modern world. Empires usually fall when their weapons become obsolete, but Sweden and Japan proved that true power isn't about the weapons you carry. It's about the cultural code you carry inside, your soul long after the weapons are laid down. So today, when the technical precision of Japan meets the physical, towering presence of Sweden under the World Cup lights, you are watching a clash of living histories. Sweden brings that historic, unbreakable longship unity, playing with a powerful, collective structure and a physical presence that commands the field. They are the roaring storm. But Japan? Japan plays with the silent, lightning-fast execution of the samurai. They move with mathematical harmony, utilizing space and flawless discipline, waiting for one single moment to strike with clinical perfection. It is longship muscle testing itself against the silent blade. The Viking ships have long returned to the dust, and the samurai swords are now resting in museum glass cases. But when the referee blows that whistle, the codes of the North and the East are still alive. Who has your loyalty on the pitch today? The unbreakable shield wall of Sweden or the silent discipline of Japan? Let me know your score predictions in the comments below. If you want to keep exploring the raw, untold human history behind the world's greatest matchups, hit that subscribe button, smash the like button, and turn on those notifications. This is Historia Prime, and the pitch never forgets. See you at kickoff.